All right, let's dive into something that's sitting at this wild and frankly pretty dangerous intersection of technology, finance, and raw political power. We're going to unpack how a whole new digital frontier is changing the rules of influence, and it's happening right under our noses.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. What if you could just buy and sell political influence on an open, anonymous market? Yeah, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But it is fast becoming our reality. The tools are out there, and they are creating these hidden backdoors to power that completely bypass every rule we have ever written. Let's break down exactly how this works.
So, how does this all go down? Well, it all starts by taking the old model of political access, think campaign donations, fancy dinners, and giving it a massive digital upgrade. We are walking into what you could call a tokenized access economy. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the traditional system. Look, it's messy, for sure, but it has guardrails, disclosure laws, registered lobbyists, paper trails. But on the other side, a completely new model built on anonymous digital wallets, instant global transactions, and algorithm-driven rewards. This isn't just a new chapter, folks. It's a completely different rulebook. Okay, so let's get practical. Imagine a new digital token hits the market. Maybe it's sold as a community project or a new investment. But for the biggest buyers, the real prize isn't just making a profit. Oh no, it's the access it unlocks. We're talking private dinners with politicians, direct lines to their staff, even a chance to whisper in their ear about policy before anyone else even knows it's being written.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The token stops being just some financial asset on a spreadsheet. It becomes a key, a digital key that can unlock doors that were always supposed to be guarded by gatekeepers like party officials and campaign managers.
Now, to really get why this is such a game changer, we have to look under the hood at the technology itself. Because crypto wasn't just designed to create a new way to pay for things. It was designed from the ground up to break the very rules our oversight systems need to function. So crypto basically rewrites the rulebook in three huge ways. First off, it hides your identity. Wallets are pseudonymous, which means you can see the money moving, but you have no idea who is moving it. Second, borders mean nothing. Jurisdiction doesn't matter when anyone, anywhere in the world can get in on the action. And third, the speed. Transactions happen in a flash, completely sidestepping the slow, careful checks and balances of the traditional banking system.
So when you mix those three things together, total anonymity, no borders, and lightning speed, what you get is the perfect storm. You get a system that allows influence to be gathered silently, to be built up incredibly fast, and to be used from anywhere on the planet, all while flying completely under the radar.
And this is where the theory becomes a very real, very serious problem. Because when influence starts operating in these digital shadows, it's not just about finding a few clever loopholes. It's about throwing the door wide open to massive national security threats.
So you have to ask yourself a simple question. When you build an anonymous, borderless backdoor to political power, who do you think is going to be first in line to use it? Well, the answers are pretty much a list of who you'd be most worried about.
The first, and let's be honest, the most obvious group are foreign adversaries. Laws in most democracies are crystal clear about this. You can't have foreign governments and foreign nationals donating to campaigns or directly meddling in domestic politics. And there's a really, really good reason we have that firewall. Well, this is the perfect workaround. A foreign agent doesn't have to register as a lobbyist or make an illegal donation. All they have to do is buy the right digital token. And just like that, their influence is laundered. It's not foreign interference anymore. It's just a friendly suggestion from a market participant. It's influence hiding in plain sight. So, who's next in line? Money launderers. We already know crypto can be a tool for hiding dirty money, but what happens when you combine that ability with political access? The problem just gets so much bigger. And this is the real upgrade for organized crime. By buying one of these access tokens, illicit funds are suddenly transformed into a legitimate-looking seat at the table. All of a sudden, dirty money isn't just getting cleaned, it's getting a voice in the halls of power. Now, the third danger is a little more subtle, but it might actually be the most damaging in the long run. It creates this really toxic feedback loop between policy and price, a cycle that can corrupt the entire decision-making process. You can think of it as regulatory capture 2.0. If a token's price goes up or down based on a politician's actions, they are under enormous pressure to make decisions that pump that price. I mean, how can you make a tough but necessary regulatory choice when you know it will crash the portfolios of your biggest supporters?
Policy stops being about the public good and starts becoming all about market signals.
So when you layer all of these threats on top of each other, you really start to see why the source material calls this an intelligence nightmare. It's a system that allows for influence without spies, money transfers without banks, and political access that leaves almost no trace at all.
Okay, so that is a pretty grim picture. The problem is definitely complex and it's serious, but it's not unsolvable. So the question is, how do we start updating our political playbook to close this incredibly dangerous gap?
Here's the root of the problem, right? Our laws are just old. They were written for an analog world of cash and checks and fundraisers you actually had to show up to. They simply have no concept of digital assets, algorithmic rewards, or influence that's literally embedded in computer code. But the good news is, we can absolutely adapt, and the solutions aren't even that crazy. We could start by requiring disclosure. If you own one of these access tokens, we should probably know who you are. We can treat these tokens as what they really are, a political contribution, and make them subject to the same limits. We can and should ban foreign participation, and we can use blockchain analytics to proactively hunt for the bad guys. These are just modern updates to timeless principles. And, that's actually a pretty hopeful note to strike. The blockchain is a public ledger. So the very same technology that creates these anonymous risks also gives us a brand new set of tools for transparency and enforcement. The question isn't whether it can be done, it's whether our institutions have the will to adapt to this new reality.
And let's be perfectly clear about one thing. This is not about banning crypto or trying to stifle innovation. This is about protecting democracy. The real question is how we make sure that core principles like transparency and accountability don't get wiped out by this new wave of unregulated digital power.
And so we end right back where we started, with a question. A question that, you see, is no longer hypothetical. When the key to political access can be held silently in a digital wallet owned by anyone, anywhere in the world, what does that mean for the future of our democratic systems? That's something we need to figure out. And we need to do it soon.